Hold on a second. Hold on. Someone's disappeared again. Where is he gone? Where is he gone? Hang on a minute. Hold on a second. There we are. We're there. There we are. Oh dear. The funs of using streaming bits and pieces. Yay. How are we all doing, chat? How are we all doing? So this is probably a first. We're going to be streaming both TSC and TSW in the same night. Magic. And I'm joined tonight as well by Joe.
Hi everyone, nice to be on another stream. Hope everyone's well.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. So, why are we, Joe? Do you want to? I mean, it's this. This is your area of expertise, as they could say. Would you like to start us off and say why we're streaming tonight?
Yeah, sure. So if you haven't figured out already by the title or some of the articles we put out this week, not just this year, not just this month or this week, but today is the 150th anniversary of the full length of the West Somerset Railway opening to the public. So that was on the 16th of July, 1874. Naturally, we've got West Somerset Railway content in both Train Sim World and Train Simulator Classic. So what better excuse for a live stream than streaming both and doing a little bit of a celebration in line with some of the stuff that the actual West Somerset Railway is doing this week on the real life railway. There's a lot going on to celebrate the big 150. So we thought we'd join in on the action, and we'd also throw some discounts in as well on Steam for Steam players, again on both TSW and on TSC. So we can talk about that at some point.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, we're just here to have fun and enjoy the railway, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And while we're here as well, we've had a special guest join us. Actual resident, 9466. There we are. Hang on, I can't get the number in. We even had a model come in and join, so it can come and watch us or watch me fail and drive. That's there we are. Fail at driving. So yes, there we go. Right. So we're going to start off on TSW, and we're going to do a service. And we're going to make sure I've got all the settings there. Yep. Right. Let's get in. So we've got 4F to start off with. I'm driving with the 4F. Here we are.
Yeah, so there isn't actually a 4F on the railway at the moment, but it has been a very regular guest locomotive in galas in previous years. So
yeah,
I think 2016 was probably the last time we had a 4F on the railway. 2017. Stand corrected.
If anybody needs me to adjust the audio, please let me know. Make sure the guard's safe as well.
I don't know, this is obviously freight. Is this one of those ones with the 8F on the back?
I think it's a Jubilee.
Jubilee, is it?
Got Kenya on the back. So let's make sure we release our brakes.
Have you done the double whistle?
Not yet. Hang on.
I know it's thrown a few people out that have started using the peak price content in the Sunset. Some of those unusual operational quirks, if you like, of going to operate with two steam locomotives. You have to tell the person at the back that you want to go.
Right, there we go.
So, what should we start with, Jamie? Or do we need to give people an overview of what the West Somerset Railway is, or do we think everybody knows at this stage?
I think, yeah, if you give an overview, let me just double check my audio levels, because I think the game is a little bit loud and I can't hear you as much. So I'm just going to do some jiggery pokery with the audio, and if you just double check my audio. Well, with that, yeah, yeah. If you want to go through some history of the West Somerset, I'm all ears.
I suppose it's one of the challenges, first of all, of working with steam locomotives. Is they are quite loud,
Yeah.
and especially in Quainton World. So yeah, good that we've got the audio all set.
Especially with me driving.
Yes, so yeah, I'm sure a lot of people obviously play the West Somerset Railway route. I'm sure there's a lot of people actually in the chat that have visited the West Somerset Railway. So if you have, let us know. Always good to know how many people get to experience the real world routes. But yeah, so it's obviously a heritage railway, so not a full speed mainline operation like a lot of the other content in Trainsim World. As I mentioned, obviously it's celebrating 150 years of its full run opening. Originally, it was just a stretch from Watch It that was opened in 1862, and then the rest of it was opened, as I say, to Minehead in 1874. And the stretch that Jamie's doing, so he started out at Norton Platform. That's a newish platform, a new station that was opened more recently to accommodate guest locomotives for galas and mainline locomotives and things like that. And then he's heading through to what will be effectively the first station on the line, or the station that most people consider to be the starting station, which is Bishop's Lydian. And as a heritage railway, of course, it has an ever-changing fleet of locomotives. There's some resident steam locomotives, there are guest locomotives that come to galas, which is what the timetable in this particular scenario, this particular service is representing. But there's also a diesel group as well at Willerton that host a number of diesel locomotives, and again, some of those are rated. So that's sort of what the West Somerset Railway is. As a heritage operation, it's a very relaxed driving style. If you're not familiar with it, maximum speed is 25 miles an hour. There's 10 stations along the line, 11 I think if you include Fitzwarren. So very different actually to a lot of the other high-speed modern routes that we've got. And it's nice I think to make use of some of the old steam locomotives on a different route as well, which is more lovely. And this particular service that Jamie's running is a freight service. Very typical of the kind of thing you'd see at a gala. Obviously, passengers travel on heritage railways, but it's always a good excuse to get some rolling stock out, have a play around with some guards vans and goods vans and things that wouldn't normally run on a heritage railway for photographers to photograph or members of the public to just see and view. So this is very much representing that, with the two locos on the front and the back as well, is something a bit operationally different, not something that you see every day, which is good fun.
It is. I'm enjoying it. I do like top and tailed.
Is my volume okay? I don't know. I know you've turned the game volume down. I've had a couple of people mention about my volume might be turning up, but if not, then
your volume up. I can't hear him very well next to inside the logo. Okay, I can do that.
I'll just have to talk louder, Jamie.
Yeah, hold on. Let me do some modifying again. Just turn you up a bit, turn the game down just a tad. Alright, see if that's any better. I've lost you on the screen again because you know why. There we go, you should be back. And I've stopped. There you go, never mind. Time for some thrash.
Yeah, go for it. Open it up. This bit I think is there's a bit of an incline at some stage coming up. We're travelling in a down direction, aren't we? Down into Bishop's Lydian.
Yeah.
And there's a fairly steep gradient, I think, coming in and out of Bishop's Lydian. So this stretches the stretch of track that heads towards the main line. If you've got all your layers and things installed when you're playing the West Somerset Railway route, there's obviously layers that you can see running on the main line, like the GWR HSTs, which is good fun. And when guest locomotives arrive by rail, they travel down this bit of track, obviously, into Bishop's Lydian, which is how they get onto the railway. If they're allowed to, obviously, if they're not mainline certified, then they end up arriving by road instead. This is one way that locomotives can actually arrive on the railway. Nice to hear, Lee. I can see you've played the route and been to the real life railway. That's great. I'm sure there's other people in the chat that have done exactly the same thing. It is a popular one. It's the longest heritage railway in England, actually. And yeah, particularly this time of year, it's definitely a tourist stop to go and see in South Wales. We're trying to convince Jamie to come.
I've been to the West Somerset once. It's a long time ago.
Do a revisit then, yeah?
What's that?
Did you a revisit?
Yes, I am due a revisit, yeah. And you need to come up to Norfolk as well.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, I'm the guilty one here because I've not done that at all.
You say yeah.
Yeah.
This is where the rear loco has not released its brakes.
Did you do the whistle at the beginning?
I did a double whistle, yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay. Just checking. I trust you. You're a better steam loco driver than I am.
Well, I have driven, I think, 30 odd real life ones. So.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
We've got 10 mile an hour anyway at the moment, so.
Yeah, it slows up a bit as you come into Bishop's Lydeard. Obviously, there's the yard and the shed as well that's recently added into the add-on with the update that happened earlier this year, where a lot of the locos end up at the end of the day. If they don't end up at Minehead, they end up at the Bishop's Lydeard shed, Westerly shed, I think they call it. Yeah, there's a few changes to the speed limit coming up through. And I always, there's one particular signal that I always get fooled by. When I'm playing it, so just obviously change. Whilst you're coming into Bishop's Lydeard, Jamie, shall we talk a little bit about discounts? We've got some discounts live, haven't we?
Yes, yeah.
Let's go through those. So, obviously, we'll come on to the Train Sim Classic later on in the stream. But as part of the 150, if you're a Steam player and you've yet to play any of the West Somerset Railway content in Train Sim World, we've put some discounts live for this week. I think they end on the 22nd of July, which is Monday, I think, next week. So obviously the West Somerset Railway route is in that. You can get a 70% off on Steam, which is a pretty good discount. But also some of the loco add-ons and things that layer into the West Somerset. So with all the updates that came in February, and if you missed that, go and check out our article about the remaster of West Somerset Railway, which is something we were all very excited about. I know Liam, the game designer Liam on our team, puts a lot of really hard work into bringing it up to Train Sim World 4 standard and redoing the timetable and adding in the TOD 4 lighting, TOD 4 lighting, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, a lot of that work involved adding in these layers. So the Class 33 and the Class 52, which were already layered into the old timetable, they're also available with a discount on Steam. And the Peak Forest Railway add-on as well, which is where this content comes in, the content that Jamie's playing. So that layers in the 4F and the 8F and the Jubilee. You can get that at 60% off at the moment. So if you've got Train Sim Mod 4, you've made use of the West Somerset Railway remaster, and you've managed to get those updates, but maybe you haven't added in the steam locomotives, obviously getting Peak Forest is your way in, and that adds so many services to the new Steam Gala timetable. Quite unusual services as well, like these freight operations and things, which is great. So yeah, go and check that out if you're a Steam player. And as I mentioned, we'll come on to the Train Sim Classic content later on the screen. And as I say, if you are interested in learning more about that remaster and what that did to the West Somerset Railway route, then check out our article we published in February, and you'll get all the details, how the timetables changed, all the different scenery updates, like the shed being added at Bishop's Lydeard, like some updates to Watchet and Minehead and those sorts of locations. So worth being aware of if you're into the West Somerset Railway content on Train Sim World.
Charging out here now. Doing all right. Past Flying Scotsman as well, back in the... Yeah, it's a good... If you haven't seen the Steam Gala, Tom, it's really good, I must admit. I enjoyed it, so...
Yeah, seeing things like Flying Scotsman and 8Fs and Jubilees and things on the West Somerset Railway route, just feels right.
Yeah.
You know, the diesels are great, and I mean, I'm a particular fan of the diesels, and I like the diesel gala that the West Somerset Railway runs every year. But I think when you're playing in game, you want to run steam locos in this route. It's that's kind of what it's where they belong, I think. It's a bit of a climb. It's basically a climb now all the way to Crocombe Heathfield. Crocombe Heathfield's the highest point of the railway line.
I did wonder.
So you go through a couple of villages and hamlets and things. You go over 2 bridges that sort of straddle Coombe Flory, a little village called Coombe Flory. Lovely little place, lovely church, nice pub, that kind of thing. And it's, you know, the Somerset countryside is just a lovely picturesque part of the country to ride a steam train through.
Yeah, definitely. Find the perfect spot in the regulator with the reverser, so I can just leave it open, and the locos are just doing their own thing now. See, look, no hands, no hands.
It is always tricky. I mean, I find it really tricky with when you're running the sort of class 33 or the 52. You're coming down those gradients, actually balancing the brakes is a really difficult thing to find.
Yeah.
As it is on any route, but I think, you know, when you're travelling at such a low speed as well, at 25 miles an hour, it's quite a challenge. A good challenge, and obviously a challenge that the real life drivers have to put up with.
Yeah.
When they're carrying the tourists.
Just have a look in the chat. Sorry, your video might disappear for 2 seconds because I can't see the chat. Where's my mouse gone? The mouse has disappeared. That's going well.
See if I can take a look. Presumably you can still hear me. Favourite moment about your adventures across the railways? Wow. I was very lucky in that I travelled on the Boston Sprinter route for the first time recently on MBTA, and that was really good fun. So that was my first Trains and World, USA Trains and World that I travelled down to Providence. That was really fun. But actually, a lot of my favourite moments in travelling around the country and travelling with trains in my spare time have come on the West Somerset Railway. I'm really biased. You'll get used to this. I mean, if you see me in other streams, you'll know I talk a lot about the West Somerset Railway. And, you know, Jamie and the rest of the team, Alex and JD, you know, they get sick of being in all these teams calls, because whenever there's a chance to jump on talking about the West Somerset Railway, that's pretty much what I do, really.
And you can tell which one I'm biased about. Yeah, we were... Oh, shove from the Jubilee.
One comment about a Clollite 2-aspect signal. I don't think we'll be seeing too many more of those on the route, unfortunately. It's mostly semaphore. Cookie, great question. I am not Timetable Joe. That's probably worth pointing out, actually. So, yeah, Timetable Joe is another Joe. There's a fantastic amount of work on some of the timetables, as I'm sure you're aware, other trains and world routes. But I am not Timetable Joe. I am a different Joe.
Yeah, for those...
Somerset Joe, I guess.
Yeah. Do you want to explain what you do, actually, to people who've never met you before? I mean, you know, because people on TSC, for example, have probably never met you before.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I probably should point out. So I work for Turntable Games. I'm primarily working on Trains and World. So I'm Trains and World brand manager. I've featured on a couple of live streams before. No surprise, only the ones that tend to be related to the West Somerset Railway. Yeah, so I work in the marketing team. A lot of the Dovetail Live articles that you'll see published are either written either in part or fully by myself. So gathering a lot of information from the wider team about some of our releases. Like the Class 158 article we put out today, and also helping with, you know, things like email newsletters with the wider team. Got some fantastic people working on things like that. But primarily on Trains and World. So Trains and World is my thing, and and I've been playing Train Sim World for probably 6 or 7 years now. Before I actually joined Dovetail Games, and prior to joining Dovetail Games, I actually worked for the West Somerset Railway, which is where all this kind of comes together. And I'm so biased and passionate about everything from West Somerset. As is Laserjet, 17 in the chat.
You see actually how the drag works on the back, like of the weight. You watch the coupling. Look, there you go. Well, I'll open the regulator. See, it's now pushing against the train. And if I just shut the regulator, you'll see the couple loosen. There you go.
I'm sure the competing footplate crews love you, Jamie. In the top and tailed operations.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
Well, normally, the thing is, probably in this scenario, the Jubilee would be doing absolutely nothing because they'd leave it all to the 4F. The 4F driver crew would probably come up and go, "I'll do it all. That'll be all right. I'll do it all." Nearly there. Going to be on time as well. Who'd have thought it?
I won't make a comment on galas and people at the time. It's all about having fun, right?
Yeah, of course it is. 100%.
I can see Nigel's commented. He's the Winter Lights experience. Yeah, that's a great thing that the railway does. A lot of railways do them these days, but the West Somerset does it really well. And of course, actually, there is. It's not included in the sale we put on, but we've got the Winter Lights Jubilee add-on that River Games released, I think, last year or a little bit before that, which you can layer into the new Steam card bundle. So you can actually recreate those Winter Light services in the game if you really want to.
Yeah, 100%.
It does look good. I mean, particularly with the new lighting and the rolling globes. We've got a couple of screenshots from our articles that show that.
Yeah. Yeah, what's your favourite locomotive then that's been based? If you took all the years at West Somerset, what was the favourite locomotive that was ever based there?
Yeah, what, in the time that I've been there?
Or the time, like if you took the history of West Somerset, what would be your favourite engine that's been based there? In preservation era, obviously.
That's a really hard question. It's like asking to choose between children, you know, in terms of locomotives. I mean, so the 7F, which I think we might come on to, or we can certainly talk about when it comes to TSC.
Yeah, definitely.
That was obviously there for a long time. Fantastic locomotive, very reliable. Always great pulling the dining train because it was very smooth. So you didn't have your passengers like knocking their soup over and that kind of thing. And naturally it had, you know, a bit of a local connection in terms of the Somerset Railway that ran in that part of the country. Not necessarily as part of the Somerset Railway, but you know, naturally they're kind of linked in terms of the geography of Britain's railways. But that was a pretty good locomotive to have been there for a long time. 9351, I know, you know, a little bit of a controversial one, given that it was rebuilt from one kind of loco and then became a different type of loco. But it's sort of like the flagship loco now of West Somerset. You know, it was overhauled and re-engineered by the railway itself. So a lot of the volunteers and workers that did that work, you know, were very passionate about it. So that's a good one. And actually, there's a few locomotives that are there at the moment, part of the fleet, that I think have got, you know, really important place. You know, I think on the railway, like the Manors. Odney Manor, obviously the one that sort of runs most regularly, and I think Odney's actually been and done some guesting at a couple of other railways recently, which is good. So it's good to get it out there. And a 5199, I guess, as well. The Large Prairie was at Llangollen for a while, and then when they had their financial troubles during COVID, they sort of passed the loco on to the West Somerset delivery, GWR Green. And that's, you know, it's been a lot of work on the West Somerset since 2020 as well. So, and in fact, that might be coming up to its spoiler ticket, I think. Or I know there's certainly a lot of fundraising going for it. So, Yeah, so there's a few actually. Typically I didn't give one answer, which I think no one can in a situation like that. But yeah, there's a few really important real world locomotives that are there on the railway that are really important to that fleet, from a steam point of view at least. From a diesel point of view, I mean the Class 52 is a fantastic loco for the railway to have at Willerton. Of course, it's not running at the moment, which is a shame. It's being overhauled, and there's a big fundraising campaign to try and get that back on the rails. I think it last run in 2018, I think. And of course, that you can buy that and play that in Trains and World, which is great. But it's a really powerful locomotive, diesel hydraulic, very unique noise that it makes. So that's also got a place, I think, on the West Somerset Railway. Particularly, it's been there for a long time. But there's loads. I could go on. I could just go on and list loads of locomotives. You've got me talking now, Jamie.
I think for me, it's got to be. I think when the 4F was there. I mean, the trip when I went down there was, I think it was the Manners that were running. But I actually have a little bit of history with the 4F because it came to Norfolk once. That was based there, Triple 422. And I can remember it was when I first started out as a volunteer at North Norfolk. So it's lovely locomotive. And I think diesel wise, I think I'd agree with you with the 52 or the high mech. They're really nice locos, but I think it's interesting because each railway has their different unique engines and everybody has their different favourites because they all act differently. They all, run differently and things like that. So yeah, I just thought we'd get off and have a look as we finished our service up here at is it Crocombe Heath? Am I getting that right?
Crocombe Heathfield, yeah. So this is probably one of the most famous stations on the line because the Beatles came here in the 1960s to film some of A Hard Day's Night, their film that they did. So they actually chartered a train from London, came off the main line at Taunton, down the stretch of track that Jamie's just driven, pulled up here at Crocombe Heathfield, and then they got out. And if you've seen the film, there's a very famous scene where Ringo Starr, I think it is, rides a bicycle down the platform whilst the train is moving, which these days, I mean, big no-no from a health and safety point of view. But yeah. Back then, they were a bit more lax about what they did. It's a great shot. So the camera's inside the train, and Paul and George and Paul and George and
Ringo.
Ringo. No, Ringo's riding the bike. They're all like laughing and out the window, and Ringo's riding the bike alongside the train. So yeah, it's a good shot. It's really good fun, and yeah, so a lot of people actually, or there are a few kind of pilgrims that come to this station, get off and take some pictures, make a bit of a thing of it. So it's quite a famous station.
I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's one of those things that once you've hang on, there's a fire bucket. I filled the fire bucket. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. People think, oh, hang on a minute, why have you filled it with sand and not with water? Ah, well, there's multiple reasons for that, I think. But yeah, you some are filled with water, some are filled with sand. There we are. Right, what else? I'm looking for all the collectibles. See if I've missed any. I'm not sure if this one's going back now. That's a good question. I don't know if this one's going back, so I might have to change the head code actually.
Oh, back down the line to Norton.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, this service is a short one, so it ends at Crocombe, and then I think does head back down to Norton.
It's either that or it's waiting for Flying Scotsman to get back up. But obviously, being a single line section, it would have to wait to clear for us to clear the section before they allow anything in the platform. So which is obviously the full West Somerset single line, isn't it, all the way through?
Pretty much, yeah. Yes, well, it is. Yeah, there's only the passing loops in the stations. If anyone's familiar with Scenario Planner and they like making their own scenarios, you'll probably have figured out that you've got to try and time the locos to pass one another. Otherwise, you end up just having, locos waiting at red signals for a long time. So you've got to sort of, and you can actually use the real life timetable. If you've ever picked up a leaflet for the West Somerset Railway and looked at the real life timetable, you can use that as a guide in Scenario Planner to actually create your own timetable. and make sure things are passing at stations in the right places. So that's actually really handy, and I've had a go at doing that a couple of times with
Oh, have you?
scenarios that I've made. Yeah, in Train Sim World, obviously it's one of the Creators Club features. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you've got access, even if you go on the website, actually, if you go to the West Somerset Railway website, you'll be able to see the gala timetables and the standard running timetables and the summer timetables and the winter timetables. So you can definitely use those as a guide in Scenario Planner to actually create your own timetables with your own bowling stock and that kind of thing. It's a really helpful thing to do. And I'm sure loads of people do that with the other routes as well, with the mainline timetables. But yeah, it's just handy knowing, because often in the timetables there's an X or there's some kind of indication as to where locos are crossing one another, so you can make sure that you're timing it well enough that you're not going to get you're not going to have your train held up at a red for 15 minutes or whatever. Unless of course that's what you want. And I appreciate for some players that is what they want. So.
Make sure the guard is nice and warm as well. So what we'll do, yeah, in July.
As if it wasn't in July.
Yeah.
As if it wasn't warm enough already.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to move over to TSC. So what I'm going to do, this is going to be very interesting. So we're going to move on to this. So this actually gives you some details of the sales. So have a look as the details go on. Our cameras are still on, so people can look at us. What I'm going to do is also, I can now move the chat over to there, so I can actually see it now, because I couldn't see it before. Let me just see if there was anything else that I've missed. Very funny, Baked Bean Kid. It's not dirt under my nose. Ha 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 ha.
I did see that comment. I wondered whether I should say anything, but I thought, no, I'll leave that to you.
Waiting for me to see it. So, yes, lovely. Right, let's get on, and we will get on to TSC. Yes, what's your, I mean, how, because you worked for West Somerset, but have you volunteered there before as well?
Yeah, I actually, so I joined, I worked for the West Somerset Railway first, and then moved on to become a volunteer afterwards. And a lot of the volunteering, I mean, I've not done anything particularly exciting. I don't do any footplate work. I don't do any signal work or anything like that. I leave that to the experts, to be quite frank. A lot of the volunteering I do is supporting them from a sort of like a commercial or marketing capacity, really, helping out with special events. I've dressed up as quite a few different random things. Like the 1940s event or the Christmas events. You know, I've been an elf one too many times, I think.
I've done that.
At Bishop's Lydiard. Yeah. I've represented the West Somerset Railway on TV and radio, which is always good fun. I really enjoy doing that. So yeah, it's more a helping hand on the sort of the promoting the railway, I guess, in one way or another, because I'm so passionate about it. And I lived in Somerset for a while. I lodged in lots of different places all along the line. So I spent time sort of lodging in Watchet or Minehead or near Crocombe or Taunton or those sorts of areas, and was in that area for a little while. Stayed at Blue Anchor actually for a lot of the time, which is down on the coast, up on the coast. So having worked for them in the commercial department and managing things like the dining train and helping out with group bookings like coach companies and that kind of thing, I then moved on to some of the voluntary stuff. And then of course joined Dovetail Games and got to continue expressing that passion, albeit in a digital format.
Yeah, well, you've even got the West Somerset top on as well.
I have got a West Somerset Railway top on, yeah. I've also got a... we're changing, aren't we? So I had a Train Sim World 4 pin badge on. I better change it to a...
CSC.
Classic one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got mine somewhere.
Train Sim World whilst Train Sim Classic streaming.
I've got I've got loads of pin badges. I've got a Kent and East Sussex one here, and I always collect loads of them. Right, nearly there with the game. You'll probably hear the music in the background in the menu.
Just a final call out, I guess we should do on Train Sim World then before we head over to Train Sim Classic, that as I mentioned, there are some discounts available if you're a Steam player, all West Somerset Railway content, the West Somerset Railway route, a couple of loco add-ons, the 33, the 52, the Peak Forest route add-on if you've not played any of the Steam locomotives on the route. I think Northern Trans Pennine is also has a reduction as well, and that layers in the additional diesel locomotives into the original timetable. if you're a diesel fan, diesel basher, then that might be for you as well. But that's probably enough on Train Sim World. We can move on to Train Sim Classic, which actually I'm really interested to see because I haven't played Train Sim Classic in a little while.
Yeah.
So you're the expert here, Jamie. I think you're going to be telling me what's going on. I think because it's something I'm much less familiar with.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be fun because we're in a sandwich. Not a literal sandwich, but in a sandwich all the same. So there's got a little bit of history behind this loco as well that's in the sandwich because it was involved in the film, wasn't it? Or the class was at some point at West Somerset because we've got a 64XX. So GWR panniers, Minehead sandwich. Having attached the second auto trailer, we're now ready to take the service back to Minehead, collecting passengers at every station. Being allowed passengers to embark at Willerton, press T, we'll be leaving at 9:35. So what we're going to do is let the passengers open, and then I'm going to put advanced mode on. There we are. I'm going to ring the bell. Thank you. So we can now put it into forwards, and we are running with, so we've got Wren, which is that one, and then 6430 in the middle, and then Thrush at the end. So these are auto coaches. Ledger 899, yes it is. 64XX. Right, next for Donningford, departing at 0929. So what we're going to do is we're going to release the brakes, and then we're going to see he's now releasing the brakes. And we're off.
Yeah, so this is unusual. This is the kind of thing actually South Devon Railway do more often than the West Somerset Railway because they have a resident 64XX. In fact, the resident they have, I believe, is 6412.
Yeah.
So they have run this kind of thing before. But yeah, very, very unusual to see this kind of operation on the West Somerset. But not, not impossible, of course. This kind of thing does happen in the heritage world. I noticed that LaserJet899 mentioned, planning to potentially volunteer for the railway when you're older. I can highly recommend it. If you live locally, there is a tracker scheme you can sign up to as a young person if you're too young to volunteer in an adult capacity. So yeah, definitely give someone a call, drop someone an email, and get involved if you can. It's once you've done it once, you'll want to volunteer for the rest of your life. It's once you're in that realm, particularly if you get good friends there and you enter a really good group of people, you'll really enjoy it, and you'll learn a lot as well.
Sorry, the fireman has decided that he's not going to... Oh, come on. Let's see if I can do it. It's alright, the fireman decided that they didn't want to adjust the reverser for me, which is going to make it a little bit more difficult, but we'll get there.
Yes, I suppose let's talk a little bit about 6412. So, 6412, as Jamie mentioned, that particular locomotive has a really strong connection to the West Somerset Railway. Back in the 70s, I believe, there was a television series called The Flockton Flyer, and it was a television series that was about a young group or a young family that moved to a very rural area where there was an abandoned, closed-down railway, and they decided to use some money to buy an old station and an old locomotive, and then try and get the railway back up to its former glory, which actually is a parallel to exactly how a lot of these heritage railways have ended up becoming what they are today by people with with money, people with passion, people with enthusiasm wanted to get a railway up and running. So this TV series, like, it was fictional. It wasn't real. It was like a made up thing, and they came across all sorts of crazy challenges along the way. And the locomotive that was used in the filming was 6412, and 6412 had a headboard with Flockton Flyer on it. I'm not sure where the actual headboard is now. I think there's a fake one or a mock-up one at Minehead Station. I've certainly seen some on somewhere. Excuse me. Yeah, so 6412, real strong connection to the railway, but it is, I think, on the South Devon Railway now. And I know it's visited for galas and things like that. So it's great to see, albeit in a virtual format, it's great to see a 64XX on the West Somerset Railway again.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Don't worry. We're getting there.
Has someone stuck their arm out, Jamie?
I think so. There's someone on the platform there.
We'll take that as a good enough sign. So this is a request stop. For those not familiar with the West Somerset, Doniford Halt is a request stop. Trains absolutely have the right to just rocket through here and not bother stopping. But as James pointed out, we've got someone who wants to get on.
We're going the right way.
The pagoda building at Doniford Halt Station is actually from a closed down station that's long since gone, called Cove, which was on the Ex Valley line, and they managed to reclaim that from there somehow, and now it's at Doniford Halt, and you can actually buy a model of it, I think, if you're a keen railway modeller.
And we're off. It's driving all right. I'm getting there. We did lose a little bit of time, but we're getting there. We're fine.
We'll forgive you. As I mentioned, I'm nowhere near as familiar with trains in Classic as I am with trains in World, so I've never driven anything like this on in the game. So, actually, it's a good question for you, Jamie. How is operating an auto coach different from operating a locomotive? Are any of the controls any different, or do you have to be mindful of anything that's maybe a little bit peculiar?
So, running an auto train is like running a DMU in some respects. But, so you'll see me keep clicking this area up here. So you've got 1 ring is start, 2 rings is stop, 3 rings of brakes off. So, pardon me. Basically what that does is, you'll notice that goes down, underneath, and through there. That's because there's a bell in the cab of this loco here, and that's my communication to the fireman. So the fireman will be on his own in the loco behind, and if I need him to set the reverser back, he will automatically, so I'll press the bell, he then responds, then pushes the reverser back, and then if I need him to pull it forward again, I can just, if I need to stop the train, I can press the bell to stop. Because you'll notice there's no reverser, which obviously in a steam loco you need for your valve settings. So yes, it's more difficult, but once you get the hang of it, it's good fun.
I suppose it is. It's the railway equivalent of It Takes Two to Tango, right?
It does.
2 people involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it does indeed. Yeah, because I'm communicating with the person who's in the loco, because he'll be the fireman, or the fireman will be doing all the water, doing all the keeping the fire, and obviously I can't tell him or her the fact that you know, I need more power, give me more power, because there's no way of communicating that. So they have to judge where they are, which is, again, very interesting. So what there is between, so here, there's bars between here and here. You'll probably see the bell in the cab somewhere. Yeah, there's the bell communication in there. Oh yeah, there's the bell. There it is. So the bell will ring in the cab there, and then the fireman, as you can see, there's no driverlet because the driver is in here. So there's only one fireman there.
So the locomotives, I guess, have to be retrofitted to do this kind of operation, right?
Yeah, basically, yes. There is about, so panniers were fitted, prairies were fitted, 14XXs were fitted as well. Oh, Nick has joined. Hello, Nick. How we doing? I'm not breaking any engines. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah. I did notice the Koi Gaming, I know we finished the Trains and World section, but just asked about the difference between the original West Somerset Railway route and the remaster. So again, this is on Trains and World. So just to very quickly summarise, so obviously the implementation of TOD4 lighting, there was a brand new steam gala timetable that was implemented as well. A number of scenery updates at Minehead, Watchet. There was a new shed, or the shed that's at Bishop's Lydeard added into the scenery. The AI traffic on the main line at Norton Fitzwarren was also added in, again, if you own some of the layered content. So there was actually quite an extensive number of updates that were included if you're a Train Sim World 4 player. So this was just for Train Sim World 4. If you're interested in finding out more, we have got an article that covers all of this. We published it in February. If you read our current article about the 150th anniversary, there's a link to it in there. So if you are unfamiliar with that, then yeah, please do go and have a look and just digest all the different updates that our game designer Liam implemented into that, and I'm sure that will answer all the questions that you've got.
Struggling up the gradient a little bit because it's 1 in 76.
Yeah, this one's pretty steep, and there's also a few sort of unusual speed changes here. So I think it's 10 through the station, and then you come to 25, but then it quickly goes down to 20, and then you've also got a few level crossings that have limited visibility. So I think we're travelling in the down direction, so I think we'll be fine. It'll be 25 throughout. But if we're travelling in the up direction, there's actually a temporary 10-mile-an-hour speed limit where you're required to slow down because the visibility in one direction over the level crossing is very limited. So yeah, you've got to be on your toes on this stretch. It's a little bit of a peculiar one. And this is also, so we've just gone through Watchet. Watchet was the original terminus of the railway. So originally the railway just stopped there. It didn't go further. And the 150th anniversary that we're celebrating, of course, celebrates this stretch of the line that Jamie's now travelling on between Watchet and Minehead, which was opened in 1874. Watchet was also the terminus for something called the West Somerset Mineral Line, a completely separate railway, not linked in any way, shape or form to the West Somerset Railway, and that was a mineral railway. It did exactly that. It carried minerals from the Brendan Hills down to Watchet Port. And Watchet was a really important port harbour for a long time in its history. It used to import and export all sorts of material, like coal from Wales or stone from Somerset, even wine from France, I'm led to believe. So there's a lot of history in this area. But as I mentioned, this stretch now that we're travelling along, that is the stretch that was opened in 1874, 150 years ago today. So again, just in case, I think someone questioned whether we were live or pre-recorded. It is live. We are live. Today, the 16th of July, is the 150th anniversary of this stretch of the railway opening.
And we're live over Train Simulator Classics YouTube channel and Train Sim World's YouTube channel. So we're live on a lot of locations as well. So make sure you come and say hello in the chat as well if you're watching. I just realised that the gradient's got steeper, so
yeah, open it up. Give it some real welly if you can.
Yeah.
A morning Aussie coffee bean. Appreciate you're in a different time zone to us, so hope everything's well over there. So naturally, there is a little bit more West Somerset Railway content in Train Simulator Classic than there is on Train Sim World. And again, we've put a lot of that content on sale. There's the route naturally, which you can get, but there's also quite a number of loco add-ons from a number of different developers. So we've got an article on the Train Simulator side, Train Simulator Classic side of Dovetail Live that lists all the different locos that you can get for the West Somerset Railway route. Lots of steam locomotives. There's also quite a few diesels you can get as well. And again, as part of that 150th anniversary, a lot of that content is currently on sale on Steam. So if you're a Train Sim Classic player, or if you're curious, you're not a Train Sim Classic player and you want to see what kind of content you can get for Train Simulator Classic related to the West Somerset Railway, then head over to the article or head over to the Steam store and see what we've got there.
Definitely. Yeah, and definitely have a go vice versa. If you've never done Train Simulator Classic before, have a go at Train Simulator Classic. If you haven't done TSW Train Sim World before, have a go at Train Sim World. It's they're both brilliant games. And both have different features, don't they?
You can get something different from the two of them, can't you? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Train Sim World has its first-person element, which is very unique. Particularly if you come from the Train Simulator Classic world, it's a very different style of playing. But Train Simulator Classic has a wealth of content to tap into. So there's two very different styles of train simulation experience, but definitely worth checking out if you're going from one to the other, or you're just a little bit curious.
This is a typical Great Western branch line that we currently now run.
It was broad gauge for obviously a lot of its history. When it did open in 1874, it was opened as a broad gauge line. In fact, I believe it was the penultimate broad gauge line that was opened. There was one more broad gauge line opened after this one, which was down in Cornwall. And then obviously later in its history, I think it was the 1890s, there was the changing to what we now know as standard gauge, what was then known as narrow gauge. So yeah, it was standard gauge for a long time. Sorry, it was broad gauge for a long time, and then it became standard gauge. And if you ever go to so Willerton Station, which is where Jamie started on this Train Sim Classic scenario, you can actually see that the rails are much further apart than they'd normally be in a station, and that's because the station hasn't been altered since it went from broad gauge to standard gauge. So you can actually still see how wide the running the P-way would have been through Willerton Station.
Well, that's a good point, Bait Bean Kid. Could you imagine in today if broad gauge had been chosen as the standard gauge? Can you imagine how different rail travel would be? Because the amount of gauging that would be massive. You think of America, when we exported all the railways around the world, you think if we'd had exported the 7-foot gauge all the way across the world, the Channel Tunnel would have been 7 foot. Can you imagine the Channel Tunnel being 7? Imagine all the cars and lorries that you'd be able to get on. You really, when you think about it, in some respects, broad gauge solves a lot of problems now that then it probably didn't. But it's very interesting. The gauge situation is very interesting.
It is, and obviously it was Brunel's favoured gauge. If Brunel would have had his way, the whole country would have been broad gauge.
Yeah.
It was the competing railways from elsewhere in the country that sort of enforced, from a government point of view, the idea that was actually the way forward to make everything the same. And I love when you see these old photos of stations where there was broad gauge next to standard gauge, and there was transfer stations where freight would go from one train to another. They'd literally move things from a broad gauge train onto a standard gauge train, and there were points where both broad and standard gauge interacted with one another, and it just seems like really bizarre. I mean, of course, elsewhere in the world, broad gauge or different gauges do kind of work together and combine together, but just the very thought of that happening in the UK, I think to me it seems very strange, and I think it's good that we've got a uniform system. But yeah, quite an interesting thought.
Valve gear and hang on, we'll see the fire there. We'll go to Blue Anchor and then we'll swap scenario because we're going to do a little bit of fun at Minehead because we haven't seen Minehead yet either. So at least we get to see both ends of the line. We'll run to Blue Anchor and then we'll
This is where Jamie needs to be careful with his brakes because we're about to go down the Washford Bank, which is one of the steepest, if not, I think it is the steepest part of the line. And it's really popular with enthusiasts coming the other way because if you're travelling behind a locomotive in particular and you want to see it really open up and really, go for it, and that's the moment at which the throttle fully opens. And some locos, do struggle to make it up, particularly if they're pulling, 8 to 10 coaches, which is more than a normal train would call on the West Somerset Railway. So, but we're going down it, so Jamie's got to be a little bit hot on the brakes and make sure he doesn't overrun.
Says me when I've got the regulator fully open and going downhill. There we go.
It's a heritage railway, not a roller coaster.
It is, yeah. It's all right. We'll get there.
Actually, you can see it. You can see it, can't you? Sorry, I know I'm a bit delayed.
No, you can see it going down. Yeah, that's why I was showing it. Yeah, it's 1 in 29 at the moment. 1 in 129, sorry. 1 in 29. 1 in 29 would be nuts.
Someone asking why is the engine in the middle? I think we did cover that, but obviously if you've joined late, welcome, first of all. Glad to have you along. But I don't know whether you want to just quickly explain again, Jamie?
Yeah, so it was a Great Western design, and the idea was mainly for branch line duties. So I think their idea was that they could add as many coaches on. So in theory, you could actually run sandwiched with 4 coaches, so 2 on each end. As long as they were connected together, you could actually run as a set of 4. It's Great Western design, and the loco would be in the middle. It's almost running like a DMU. If you imagine a DMU or an EMU unit, where the motor's underneath the sort of underneath the coaches. This is basically like that. I'm not entirely sure exactly why they went down the sandwich option, because in theory they could have done it where you could have had 2 coaches at one end of the train connected through, but it was just something that they did. And I mean, the Great Western had a very, very interesting way of running their railway. They had one of the other options they had was slip coaches. And if anybody knows anything about slip coaches, it's quite amazing that they got that through health and safety. To be, you'd never get away with it now. Let's put it that way. It's quite a Great Western had some very initiative ideas, and to think that this was probably one of the first ideas of actually having a unit, i.e., a multiple unit. This was sort of the first version of it before they got to sort of steam rail motors, it's basically a DMU, a steam SMU as we call them, steam EMUs, steam multiple units. Yeah.
I wonder if the reason for having and I'm just speculating here, I don't actually know, but I wonder if the reason for having a loco in the middle is if you had the loco at one end, you'd need a fireman and a driver that knows how to drive the locomotive, and then on the way back you need someone who knows how to drive the auto coach. Whereas actually if you just had the loco in the middle, you only need one fireman, and then the same person, they know how to use the auto coach at either end, but they don't necessarily need to know how to operate the locomotive. So
yeah, that's a point. I didn't think of it that way. Yeah.
If you're an expert on auto coaches in the chat, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I have no idea whether that's true or not, but I'm just illogical thinking there. It's a bit dangerous.
But I must admit, have you ever been on an auto train before?
No. As I say, I know the South Devon Railway have run them before. I've never seen one in operation actually, let alone ride on one. So I'd love to at some point.
I have been on one. I can't remember where I went to. I went to a heritage railway somewhere, and had to go on an auto train, and it was quite amazing. I think that
GWR.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling it was Severn Valley, and I think that was a sandwich. I think it was a 14XX in sandwiched, like this, from what I remember.
James has requested, can we do a diesel service? I think the next thing you've got planned, Jamie, is that also Steam?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's a bit of a silly question, really.
It was.
I mean,
It's me. I mean, come on, guy. It's
you.
me.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to be
So
Steam.
sorry to disappoint, James, but I'm sure you'll be aware in Train Sim Classic there are a load of diesel loco add-ons you can get for the West Somerset Railway.
Yeah.
As I mentioned at the very start of the stream, the diesel group is such an important part of the modern day British Railway with the 33s and the 35s. So stay tuned. You'll see some interesting stuff at Minehead. It's with Jamie fronting the stream. It's only ever going to go one way, unfortunately.
The other thing is that with the anniversary, today is all Steam, isn't it? I think today on the railway, from what I've seen.
Yes, I think so. There's been a lot of stuff going on. I know they had a bit of a press day earlier in the week. I know they've been doing turntable demonstrations and shuttle services. Didn't actually dig down into what the full timetable was, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did get the diesels out just to celebrate the whole history of the line, not just obviously the 1874. But they've got some guests, I think, at the moment as well.
Yeah, they've got Furnace 20, haven't they? Which is the oldest. I think it's one of the oldest operating steam locos in the world, isn't it? I think Furnace 20.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bit gutted I haven't managed to get down there, to be honest, because I'd love to see that. But if you're interested in all the stuff that the Real Life Railway is doing, obviously you can head over to the website. There's stuff happening all week from that point of view. It wouldn't surprise me if they were running a bit of diesel as well, or had to understand for whatever reason. They are an integral part of the modern heritage scene.
I will have a look. Oh, wait. Hold on, we haven't even got past yet. It's already off. And that's the loco we're driving next.
At a hall?
Yep. Raveningham Hall.
Oh, it's Raveningham Hall, right,
yeah.
Okay, yes. Excellent, look forward to that.
So here we are, we're at Blue Anchor.
Blue Anchor's my favourite station.
And you can even see the gradient actually coming into the station. You can actually see the dip there. These are camping coaches, aren't they, here? Or they were at one point?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they've been there ages. But yeah, you can sleep in those. You can book them. They've got a website. You can spend your holidays there, which is good fun.
Being kid and said only because it has a pub.
Well, yeah. The spoiler is, so I actually lived in that pub for 6 months, which is why it's my favourite station, because I lived there. I did the supermarket shop by steam train once, which was really good fun.
Oh, I bet it was. I mean, that's something I'd like to do. That sounds awesome. I don't know. Just doing your daily commute with steam. I mean, that's quite fun. Right, let's get the scenario up. I'll just put it on the other splash screen again. As you can see, all the sail details on the screen now. There we go. So, we are going to have fun with the turntable now. As Joe said about turntable demonstrations, we can do you one live here tonight as well. So there we are.
I've never seen this before, so I'm intrigued to see what this is. I've obviously operated the turntable in Train Sim World, which is a little bit of it's a representative version, shall we say. It's not exactly the same as how the turntable operates in real life. So I'd be interested to see what it's like in Train Sim Classic.
Quick touch on the regulator and we're already off.
That didn't take very long at all, did it?
Nope. Mighty power of a hull.
You talked about locomotives that have been there for a while, residents that have been there for a while. Ravening Hall was on the West Somerset Railway for a number of years, and was a few years ago swapped and sent to the Severn Valley Railway in exchange for a manor. Can't remember which one. It might have been Dinmore. Can't remember.
Probably Bradley, I think. Bradley or
yeah, actually, I think you're right, Jamie. I think it was Bradley. That was during a period where a lot of work was being done to the track bed on the West Somerset Railway, and there were a few weight limits imposed. So the modified hall, which Ravening Hall is, was deemed to be just a little bit too heavy. So rather than just having this loco on the railway that couldn't really do anything, they decided to swap it with one that they could run on the railway, which was a manor. So that was good. And then Ravening Hall ran on the Severn Valley Railway for a number of years, and I think it's currently being overhauled now. I think it's out of ticket. It's good loco, really popular loco. And as Jamie's just proven by touching the regulator and flying off into Minehead, it's a little bit more powerful than the other locos that the railway's used to.
You've been overhauling a King there recently, haven't you, as well?
We were, yeah, 6024, I think.
Yeah.
Been in the shed for a long time.
We've got to get it absolutely centred on the timetable. We're not quite centred.
It's okay, Jamie. No one's watching.
Yeah, only about 100 people. That'll do. Right. And with the magic of pressing G, we're off. Hang on, it's doing this again. This is where it goes back to the middle. And I have to press it again. There we go.
There we go. So obviously in real life it's hand-driven, this turntable. So there are two people that will stand at either end and push physically with their arms. Jamie mentioned he had to get it bang in the middle, and that's absolutely crucial for weight distribution. If the loco is too far one way or another, it puts the balance of the turntable off such that actually you can't push it round. It's a bit like having a door well balanced on its hinges. When if it's imbalanced, it'll be too heavy or to push and pull open. Similar kind of concept with the turntable, and it's not the original turntable. It's not the original turntable that was on the West Somerset Railway. That has long since seen scrap heap, I think. But it is where the original turntable was. I believe the actual turntable got a plaque on it, and I think it says it was built in Wolverhampton, and I think it was used somewhere else on the GWR network. In fact, I saw a forum thread, not a Dovetail forum thread, but on another website that had a lot of speculation about where exactly that turntable came from. And I think the conclusion was that it had come from Wales somewhere. But don't quote me on that. If you know differently, you may well be right. But as I said, it is where the original turntable was, and the cafe that's located behind it is called the Turntable Cafe, appropriately.
Yeah, it's the cafe there, isn't it? Yeah. And as you can see, Turntable Cafe. Yeah, this is sort of the main works really for the West Somerset, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, the shed obviously is where a lot of work takes place. It's also where locos sometimes get delivered by road or taken away by road. And it's a big town, Minehead. It's very popular, particularly in the summer. There's the Butlins Holiday Camp just down the road, which gets very busy for weekend. Yeah. Going back to the turntable, as Jamie mentioned, turntable demonstration. And they do happen, particularly at galas. The locos will come in. If you want a funny anecdote from working on the West Somerset Railway, obviously if there's any photographers in the chat, and I know Jamie, you're a team photographer as well, it's always a bit more satisfying when the loco is travelling boiler first rather than tender first. From a photography point of view, and we had one chap phone the railway and say, I'd really like this particular train with this particular loco to be travelling boiler first, and they offered to pay a donation to ensure that we turned it on the turntable so
really?
it was travelling in the right direction.
No
so
way.
We could get a photo of it.
Well, I'd be blowed.
It wasn't particularly it was a very welcome donation, but we didn't break this poor bloke's bank. That's how passionate people are about their photography, and we did it because it was it was worth it. Baked Bean Kid, the Helicopter Museum in Weston-super-Mare. Yeah, that's actually really good. I've been there. It's a good museum. That into your aircraft. That's a good place to go. And Nigel, yeah, Odney Manor is on the line now. As I mentioned earlier, sort of one of the flagship locos, really, along with 9351.
Now comes the fun bit of not destroying the coaches.
Yes, if anybody saw the live stream that Alex hosted a few months back, where we also covered the West Somerset Railway, Alex really tested the integrity of the ends of the Mark 1 coaches. But we survived.
So Ravenham Hall is a modified hall, I think, isn't it? Yes, modified hall.
Yes, it is, yeah.
So the slightly more powerful variant of the halls. As it says, they've been modified ever so slightly. Drum roll, please. Oh, look at that. Sorry, Alex. Right, ready to depart. Set off for Dunster. Lovely.
Another funny anecdote, and apologies if I've said this on a live stream before, is one of the things that gets asked a lot at Minehead Station is, when's the next train to Porlock? And if you know the geography of West Somerset, even remotely, you'll know that Porlock is the next town or next village along the coast. And there were plans originally, when the railway was first conceived, to extend it all the way to Porlock, but it never happened. And yet people that are definitely not old enough to have been around when that plan was, that was 150 years ago, when that was planned. There's no one old enough to remember that, yet people still turn up at Minehead Station and ask us when the next train to Porlock is. And of course, the funny thing is you can just point at the buffers and say, well, there are none, and that's why. And it's because the railway never went beyond Minehead. It was never, it's not like there was a part that was there and then it was taken away. It never went that far. So where people get this idea from that you can go to Porlock by train, I have no idea. But yeah, people ask it an awful lot. It's very strange.
Yeah. They'll be slow for the crossing. Then we'll run to Dunster, and then I think we'll be pretty much there, I think.
Well, we've done the whole line then, I think.
Pretty much. We've missed a couple of bits, but yeah, it's pretty much all the main areas we've done, haven't we?
This stretch is absolutely dead straight. I'm sure if Jamie positions his camera, you'll see that it's just a dead straight bit of track between Minehead and Dunster. And you can actually see if you
see Dunster there, actually. You can see it in the distance. Look.
Yeah, so you can see all the way down to Dunster Station, and amazingly, the signal box at Minehead, which Jamie just passed, was originally the signal box at Dunster. And when they decided that was a bit of a silly place to have a signal box from an operational point of view, because Minehead was where all the sort of action was, and the one that was there originally was taken away during the British Rail era and all that kind of thing, they decided, well, we need to move the signal box from Dunster to Minehead. How are we going to do it? This was back in the early 70s. And what they decided to do was lift the building intact, put it on a wagon, and get a train to pull it down to Minehead. So they actually hauled the whole signal box as one building all the way down that straight bit of track, stopped it at Minehead, took the building off, reinstated it next to the track. And that's how they delivered it. It's pretty amazing. And there's some really cool photographs that you can see online of the signal box being moved.
I can go one better than that. The one at Wroxham station was... a group bought it and we're going to use it as sort of an office. It was right close up to the track work. So they thought, well... we can't have it close up to the track work because that's where the signals are going to go. So what they did was they took the very bottom layer off, lifted it, put an airbed underneath, airbedded it, so lifted it up on an airbed, and then pushed it into the area it was, put onto the new foundations, undid the air, and then lifted it down into the new position.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a book that needs to be written on Britain's moving signal boxes.
Yes, I think there should be. Joe?
I'll get on it.
Yeah. I did for that one, Baked Bean Kid. Sorry. I missed the last one.
Crossing at Minehead is actually the operational bits around that changed quite a bit. So naturally, when the research trips were done for both the Trains and Classic route and the Trains and World route, that was a number of years ago. More recently, that whole area has been redone. The crossing has been rebuilt. Signalling has been redone as well to a degree on the real life railway because it was always a bit fiddly having to, when a loco was running round, actually cross the crossing to then come back across to come into a different platform or to connect some coaches. So they redid the crossing so that loco didn't have to go all the way across and disrupt all the traffic, particularly on a Friday afternoon, for example, when all the Butlins holidaymakers are coming down. And so they did redo that quite a bit, but that might not be reflected in the in-game content because it was quite a recent change from a year or two ago. And similarly, I can see that there's a 15 board there, and I believe in real life that is actually a 5 mile an hour board, and you have to go 5 mile an hour across this crossing. That is in Train Sim World. That is reflected in Train Sim World.
We'll do 5 miles an hour then.
It's really tricky. It's probably one of the hardest things to do in the game, and probably in real life as well for the actual footplate crew. 5 mile an hour is a very slow pace to go across the crossing. And again, I think that's because of visibility and limited visibility that you have across the crossing these days. Thanks, Nigel. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate the nice comment.
I think this is probably my favourite station. I just like this building style.
Well, again, you can buy that building.
Yeah.
If you are a modeller and you're familiar with the Hornby building range, the GWR Country Station is a exact replica, model of Dunster Station. Dunster Station is the station they designed that model of.
And you said about diesels? Well, I found a diesel. There you go. And moved back to the steam. Make sure that we're off the crossing. Yeah, we're off the crossing. Anywhere about there will do. Right, so there we have it. There we are. So, hope you enjoyed that. Driving wasn't too bad, but thanks. So I hope you enjoyed that. Yes, is there anything else to mention, Joe, before we head off?
No, thanks very much. It's been obviously great to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the line opening all the way to Minehead. As I mentioned, if you're interested in what the real life railway is doing, please do go and check out the website. We've got lots on, particularly if you're local or you live in the area. It's always worth checking out this week if you can. If naturally, as I'm sure you are, a Train Sim Classic or a Train Sim World player and you're not familiar with the West Somerset Railway content, head over to the Steam store. We've got some discounts on the West Somerset Railway content, including some of the additional content that you need for more locos or more timetable layers. And if you're not a Train Sim World 4 player and you've yet to get the remastered version of the West Somerset Railway route, obviously Train Sim World 4 is a requirement. Do check that out. We've got a very detailed article that goes into all the details of that. And I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But otherwise, yeah, 150 years of the West Somerset Railway. That's we should all celebrate. It's a shame we haven't got a cake, really.
I tell you what we need. We need party poppers. That's what we need. you know, ding, ding, you know.
We'll come prepared for the 300 or the 200th. How about
Yeah, it just sounds like a plan. But yes, yeah, no, happy anniversary to the West Somerset, and many hope, many more years of dry rails and happy times, you know. So yes, there we go. I'm not sure what our next stream will be, but keep an eye on our usual areas, and we'll see you all in the next one. Say bye. Bye.
that, folks?
Take care.